So Black Widow teams up with Cap big time in this film, really as a pairing. What's their relationship like in the beginning of the movie, and how does it evolve?
You know, at this point when we find Black Widow and Cap working together in the beginning of the film, it's now been a couple of years that they've been sort of, you know, running this operation. There's a shorthand between them. They're friends, you know, and kind of at work, you know, she likes to kind of bust his chops a bit, you know, sort of wonder, are you ever not on the clock, you know, like when do you live your real life kind of a thing. And as the, you know, as the film, as the storyline progresses, we really see this kind of unexpected friendship form between them. I mean, these characters are much more alike than we could have imagined. You know, I think perhaps in some ways they're too much alike. You know, they both are used to putting up a wall, I think, to protect themselves from getting hurt, you know, because of their various sort of sordid pasts, or in Cap's case, a very kind of emotional past that he's had. And you know, it's funny because while Cap has this, you know, very strong moral compass, and the Widow doesn't have that at all. It's a kind of a gray, sort of muted moral compass. You know, they oddly, because they're on both sides of the spectrum, sort of find this middle ground, you know, with one another, and they end up sort of, I think, seeing each other in, you know, in one another's, you know, eyes and actions, and really, you know, as I said, form this kind of unexpected bond.
And there's a bond there. I would assume there's a bond between the directors because they're brothers. How was it working with two directors on this film? What did they bring?
You know, I think Joe and Anthony Russo are very different personalities. You know, Joe is much more kind of the actor. I think of the two, he's more outgoing, more outspoken. Anthony, I think, is more kind of in his own mind. He's a bit more like sort of cerebral, and a little bit more introverted. But you know, they bring different things to the table. I think Joe is kind of very cut and dry, and Anthony, I think, is you know, a bit more. I don't know. Maybe he notices a bit of the nuance, and maybe that's a little bit more important to him. You know, so they balance one another out. But it's funny because I never really saw like the sibling rivalry between them. They seem to. It's almost as if you wouldn't even know that they were brothers in some ways, if it wasn't for like their same love for fast food, which they share.
Brotherly love of fast
But they don't share with me for some reason.
So they were able to create, and you were able to execute a film that's part thriller, part action adventure. Did the real world grounding, you know, have an effect on your character and the way you played her?
What do you mean, the real world grounding?
That it's really not in another universe.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yes. You know, it's funny because these characters, of course, are living in these, you know, they're a part of this greater universe, and of course in Avengers we even opened up the idea to the literal other universe that's sort of always around. These characters now know things, and actually the public knows things, you know, that have kind of been eye-opening, and we sort of, it's a very, you know, it's a delicate balance. You know, we want to make sure that Captain America 2 is, you know, a continuation of what we learned in Avengers. We can't pretend that, you know, the sky didn't open and aliens didn't come to Earth, fall to Earth. You know, that was not, you know, that people are unaware of that. That definitely happened, and we're living in a world where people are, you know, aware of that possibility. But at the same time, you know, this film has a feeling that sort of feels, in some ways, like, you know, it's almost like as the Russo brothers described it, this kind of like 1970s like political thriller. In some ways, it has like a network kind of feel. It's that kind of very like visceral feeling film. I think that's what the audience is going to love about it, is that it's brutal, and it's very grounding. So, you know, you kind of play the characters, you know, you they live with the knowledge that they have, and that informs kind of the kind of no nonsense attitude that they kind of display, I think.
And Natasha has a bit of a dark past, and we see a little bit more of that revealed and hinting at even more of that being revealed. Is that a direction that you're comfortable exploring, that you want to explore more?
Natasha has a very dark past, obviously. She's a sort of reluctant superhero. I mean, she basically was, kind of brought into this world, first sort of working as, like a kind of bad guy, villainous, sort of, she was really like a mercenary for that side, and then ended up through a series of events becoming a superhero working for SHIELD. But she, it's not black and white, but with her, she's kind of a survivor, and I think that's what makes her interesting, is that she has all of these layers that we can kind of pull back. There's just like an onion, if you want to use an analogy that's quite common. And we peel back all of these layers, and one kind of affects the next, and so forth. And I think that's what keeps her, enigmatic.
In a good way.
Yes.
You got to work with Robert Redford again. It's exciting for everyone to see him in a movie. How was it to work with him again?
Great. I haven't worked with Redford since I was 12, and in that capacity, it was very different. Obviously, he was directing me, and we had our characters in The Horse Whisperer had a totally different kind of a relationship with one another. And it was interesting to just even meet him as an adult. It's been almost, it's been like 15 years or more, since I've seen him, and certainly, I grew into a young adult. I was a child then, it's great because his style of acting, which is a very kind of a naturalistic one, and at times feels very kind of off the cuff, even though I'm sure it's quite heavily rehearsed, is something that I remember as, a child actor in The Horse Whisperer. And so I think it allowed us, we didn't have to like kind of sniff each other out. We had this, familiar relationship, which, even though we didn't get to work together a lot in this, was fun to kind of rediscover.